Hey, so this is going to be my recap of Cleverman Season 1, Episode 1, First Contact. So, Clevermen are physical and spiritual healers, and they are said to possess some magical or supernatural abilities. And so, Uncle Jimmy is the Cleverman, and he senses that something is coming and that his time is coming to an end, and he now has to choose a successor. And so he has to choose between two brothers, Waru and Cohen. They're stepbrothers. They have the same father, different mothers. And so he has to choose between Waru is the oldest. And so Waru is a he's a kind of a civil rights leader.
That's why we have to stay united. That's why we have to stay together.
They have the Harrys, which I'm assuming is the name given to them by the government. That wouldn't be their original name, who kind of predates the Aboriginals that we know in Australia. And they possess these, they possess superhuman strength, their speed, and, you know, they're just a community of people who live just like everybody else, or at least want to. And because the government, you know how these things go, don't really understand them and people fear them, their movements are heavily controlled. And they are kind of restricted to what is called zones, and they can't really leave those zones. And so Waru is basically, people are advocating for them to be incorporated into society just like anybody else and be able to live and, you know, have the, you know, keep their families together and such. And so Waru is married to Narita, and they have a daughter named Alita. And he also has a side piece, Belinda, who's a news reporter who comes up a lot in throughout the series. Then you have Cohen, the younger brother, who is self-centered. He's selfish and thinks the world owes him, and that he is entitled to what, you know, ever he wants. So much so that he is sleeping with his best friend's girlfriend. And he has even gone as far as to set up a family, a Harry family, who went to him for assistance to get out of the zone. And he took them to what they believed to be a safe house. But it was all a ploy to basically set them up to get captured by the authorities for the reward money. And unfortunately, the youngest one in the family ended up being shot and killed by the police. So at this point, the news clip, because Belinda is there, she captured the entire thing. And so this story is now all over the news, where they're seeing this interaction, this altercation, and this baby being killed. And Taki, who I believe that's his name, Cohen's friend, is upset, you know, because the whole point was to just get them captured. And for the reward money, they never intended for anyone to be killed. But at the end of the day, you know, you're still assholes.
The kid. No one knows it was us.
Hey, shut the kid!
So, anywho, and Cohen basically was acting like he was unfazed. He saw it as, you know, the means justify the ends. He don't want to go back to living how they used to live. They have this bar that seems to be doing pretty well. They live a pretty decent life. And he doesn't want to go back there, and he feels like he is justified in doing whatever it is that he needs to do to prevent that from happening.
Want to give it all back? Close this place down? Go back to stacking supermarket shelves?
So, at some point during that night, Uncle Jimmy comes to visit him. And he ends up giving him something. And his parting words to Cohen was basically it's time to pick a tribe. You need to decide what side of this fight you're going to be on. You're going to end up on one side, and it's time for you know, let's make sure it's the right side.
This is not a game. Time you decided which tribe you belong to.
And so, Jimmy also he took a trip to the morgue where it seemed like he had breathed life. He had chosen this particular cadaver. It was a woman who had passed away. We don't know why. And it looked like he had breathed life into her. So at this point, I'm not sure, you know, how it doesn't really go into why he did that at this point in the first episode. And his final trip was to the beach where he built this bonfire. And he was waiting for what was to come. He knew his time was at an end, and he, for all intents and purposes, they didn't show it, but we know that Uncle Jimmy was killed by something. So right around this time, Cohen is in the throes of Foo-La-La with Ash, and he faints. So of course she's, then of course Taki comes in and they're trying to figure out what is going on with him, how he wasn't exposed, and what, their little situation wasn't exposed because he collapsed, so it wasn't like he had a chance to do himself up. So okay, that was weird to me, but I guess they were more focused on the fact that he had passed out, and they were just trying to make sure that he was okay. So Waru and Narita get the call about Uncle Jimmy, and they go to the morgue. And the first thing Waru does is he checks Uncle Jimmy's eyes, because the Cleverman there's something with the left eye, right? I'm not sure the significance of that. So eventually Waru, they figure out that it was Cohen that set this family up, and why that child ends up being killed. And so Waru goes to confront him, and you can tell that they have a contentious relationship. They don't really care too much for each other. He brought one of his friends. I can't remember the friend name, who's Harry, so extremely strong. And he ends up basically tossing Cohen around like a rag doll.
You little rat. You Judas leech sucking vermin of a half-brother.
Why should I?
And in the end, he ends up ripping Cohen's thumb off. And basically told him that the next time that he does something like that, it's going to basically, I guess he's going to take him out. He will be no more. So we fast forward, and then we're at Uncle Jimmy's funeral. And so everybody's arriving, and we see Cohen. Waru sees Cohen, and he takes his shades off. And so he can see that Cohen's left eye is different. And also, his thumb has miraculously healed itself. And so at this point, Waru knows that Jimmy has already obviously made his choice, and he chose Cohen over him. So he is now going through the service upset. But then we also know that Uncle Jimmy had some secrets. And one of those secrets is Jared Slade.
I'm Jared Slade. I'm very sorry for your loss. Your uncle was a fine man.
He plays a significant role in the episodes moving forward. So that is pretty much a summary of the first episode. So I'm going to end this here, and I will talk to you guys later.